Hey, hi guys. Welcome back. If you can hear a weird noise in the background, it's my cat. He is very loud. He purrs very loud, and he was freaking out, so now he's up in my lap. So we'll see how long that lasts. But so today I want to take some time and talk about death. We've covered like mourning, and we've talked about loss and grief and stuff in various forms, but I don't think we've ever specifically talked about death or people around you dying, really. And a big reason why we took the hiatus during the summer is because my grandmother passed. My grandmother died in March, and that was hard. We were very close, and it's taken a while to not only process, but you don't ever really get over anything. You know what I mean? It's just like it's taken a while to kind of like get over that hump, I guess, like get over that hurdle, really. It's we were very close. She was a very big part of my life. And dealing with like the events leading up to her death, and then the actual death itself, and then like what happens after that was a lot. Granted, I wasn't like super actively involved in a lot of like the day-to-day stuff, because like, I'll be honest, I separated myself because I couldn't really handle it and didn't want to, you know what I mean? Which I guess is not fair for the people who sort of had to then do stuff, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like it was tough, and it was a lot, and I had to kind of like set that boundary of like, here's like my limit for like my involvement in a lot of this stuff, because if not, like I'm gonna freak the fuck out. Not to use like my mental whatever, or like my drug or alcohol whatever as like a, don't upset the baby or he'll relapse and kill himself, but you know what I mean? But this is the first time like in my adult life that I've kind of been in an okay place, and something drastic has happened where I had to like reevaluate how I deal with stuff. And you know what I mean? Like if you have like mental stuff going on, if you drink or you do drugs, or you're just kind of like in a weird spot and something happens, and you want to deal with those things in like a healthy way, it's a challenge, but I'm not here to talk about that. I wanted to specifically talk about like death and dealing with people dying. Because it's fucking like, it's wild as shit, and obviously like it brings a lot of like religious stuff up that can be tricky, at least tricky. Other times it can be like toxic or annoying or just like bad, you know what I mean? Then you have to deal with other people, you know what I mean? Like it's not like when someone dies, like it's just you dealing with the loss of that person, right? And whatever that means to you, whether that means like, you know what I mean? Like they're waiting for you in heaven, or they're going to be reincarnated, or like that's the, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, dude. Like I'm not here to tell you what to believe or what I believe or whatever. It doesn't particularly matter. Materially speaking, like we're not lucky enough just to deal with like, oh, that person's not here anymore and this sucks, and I'm going to miss like the part they played in my life. There's just so much other shit that you have to do, like the closer you are to somebody, which stinks. Like it's very annoying, and I think that it really like takes away from like the grieving and like the remembrance that we should be focused on, right? As soon as someone fucking dies, like the vultures show up and they start wanting money and fucking property and possessions and all this shit, and depending on how the will's written and like how the family is or the friends are, then people can start fighting about who gets what, and you don't deserve this and I deserve more, and why is this person involved and why wasn't I invited? And when people die, you learn a lot about not only that person, the person who is dying or who died. You also learn a lot about the people around you, around them, right? Yeah. Putting someone in a situation where they have to deal with someone who they care about dying, that's a way for you to really learn about someone, and I don't know if most of the time you're really going to like what you find. Maybe that's just me, my personal experience. Like when friends or family have passed, everything's kind of like been okay. But there definitely are like negative attributes of certain people that really get highlighted and sort of like take the forefront for how you view them moving forward. You know what I mean? If you have someone who's really shitty or really petty or really greedy, really out of touch, that really like shines through and it takes away from time you could be spending memorializing and then all that stuff, the person who passed. I don't know, man. Like, the one big thing that stuck out with me is like there's really no easy way for someone around you to die, which seems obvious, but I don't know, because it was like, you know, I've had friends who died suddenly, you know, as suddenly as like, you know, someone who has like a drug and alcohol problem or like a mental health thing can die suddenly. You know what I mean? It's like, not to be cold or crass, but like, if your friends are like functioning drug addicts, or your friends have like are dealing with like depression and suicidal this and that, like, you don't write them off, but it's also like not a huge surprise if you get a call that says that they, you know, that they're dead, that they died or whatever. I've had to deal with that a few times where it was, you know, people who were doing drugs or had a history of drugs, and then they wound up overdosing and dying. And like, I'm not saying that it wasn't sad and it wasn't a shocker and out of the blue, because you never really expect anyone to die. But at the same time, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense looking back, right? So I don't, like, I've never known anyone who, like, you know, just like died in a car wreck or something where they're like on their way to the store. You know what I mean? Like, I've never had that, but regardless, like, that was tough. That was really tough to get just like the sudden out of the blue news, like, hey, so-and-so died, and we're going to have to deal with that now. You know, because it's like you're processing everything all at once, and it takes a while for you to realize what's going on, and you kind of just get punched in the gut with that news and all that shit, and it's bad. But then, you know, I was kind of like comparing that situation and how I felt with the recent passing of my grandmother, where it was a pretty drawn out process, right? And she knew that she was dying, and she knew that she was going to die. So she was, you know, seeing people for the last time on purpose. People were coming to visit her to say goodbye, right? And when we would hang out, you know, towards the end, she was very aware of her situation. And just like talking to someone who at any moment could die, was fucking weird. Like, it was really fucking crazy to just like be around someone who's like, you know, today could be my last day, so I'm ready whenever he wants to take me. You know what I mean? And that's like hard. That's hard to deal with, because it becomes like this drawn out process, and, you know, you just kind of like, I felt myself at least like just wanting things to be over with, you know? Not that I like wanted her to die, but I definitely didn't want her to continue living like in this very limited state where she was uncomfortable and just like she was ready to go. You know what I mean? Like, not to be an asshole, and I don't really think I am, but I always feel weird like thinking that, or like having to say that out loud, or admit, like, there came a point where I was like, I wanted my grandmother to die, and I needed this to fucking go and happen, because it had just been weeks and months, and it's just like this very long drawn out process where everyone is like, I don't know, it's taxing. It's taxing, and it's draining, and it sucks, and you're just kind of like stuck in this emotional limbo, right? Where you don't really know what's going on, and they don't really know what's going on, and every time the phone rings, and every time you get a text, and every bump in the night, and you can't really make any plans, and you can't really do anything, because at any point this could happen, you know? And then there's some relief, as fucked up as that is to say. There's a decent amount of relief when they finally go, when you knew it was going to happen. And it sucks, like, and it doesn't make it any easier to process, but at the same time, like, I felt myself being less sad on the back end, for my grandmother dying, like the visceral, like, crying, taking off work, like freaking out stuff, because I had done that years and months ago. You know what I mean? Because this has been the writing's been on the wall for so long, where you prepare yourself, and then it's the anxiety and it's the waiting that really gets to you, as opposed to someone who isn't in that situation dying suddenly, and then you're dealing with just like the blunt force trauma, and it just sucks either way. Like, I mean, there's no easy way to lose someone, and then like I was saying, everything involved then becomes very stressful, at least for me. Like, I'm sure there are people who take everything in stride and they're really good sports, and they're just kind of like doing whatever. But like, my anxiety gets really bad around deaths. And so it becomes like, do I send flowers? What do I wear? I have to take off work. How are we going to get there? Where are we going to stay? How long is this going to be? Blah, blah, blah. Who's going to be there? What do I say to them? You know what I mean? Like it just kind of, it's a lot. Death is a lot, obviously. It's not fun to deal with. And yeah, that's something that's just been in the front of my brain because it's dominated most of this year, if I'm being completely honest. So yeah, I mean, that's just something I've been sort of thinking about. But thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you like the Hatening, please like and subscribe. You can find us on Instagram. You can find me on all social media stuff at Lord Hoopert. You can find Andrew at Mandrutron Says and Future Sucks. Yeah, take care of yourself and the people around you, and don't forget to tell your friends you love them.